you, what was your thought process, girl? Why was that your thought process? Hey y'all, welcome back to the channel. My name is Kechelle, and today we are going to be doing like an experimental vlog to see if I can beat the Libby app and read all of my holds that are about to be due in like the next 3-4 days. On my Libby app, I have 4 books that I need to be trying to read. One of these books, I just realized like the hold isn't that soon, but 3 of them I need to read like right now, like last week, basically. Now, if you don't know what Libby app is, Libby is an app where you can rent books. It's a library app. I should have looked this up before I started filming. So if you don't know what Libby is, it is an app that allows you to rent books as if you were going to the library. Now, from what I understand and from my profile, from my account, I do have to enter a library card. So you would go onto the app, you would select your county, of course your country, your state, and your county if you're in the United States. And then you would go in and put your library card information, and it allows you to check out digital copies of books. Like, it's the library on your phone, you know? Right? Yes, it is completely free. So I have had a lot of success with Libby. They have about 80% of the books, let's say about 85% of the books that I look up and that I want, they have on the app. But if they are a new release, obviously it's going to be more likely that they don't have the book. So Libby has been amazing for me in my reading because, as y'all know, I am a library girl. I have been since I've started talking about books on my channel, and I'm also a Kindle Unlimited girly. I don't really buy books because I typically don't reread them. So the library and Kindle Unlimited, that's my jam. I love it. So I have these books on my account that are coming up to be due. And like I said, like the next 4 days. The first book that's coming up is to be returned is King of Ashes by S.A. Cosby. The second book is Isaac's Song by Daniel Black. And then the third book is The Buffalo Hunter by Stephen Graham Jones. All 3 of these are 2025 releases, I do believe. And I'm excited to read all 3 of them. I just been putting them off because Kindle Unlimited has had my undivided attention for a long time. So let's run through these books really quick. King of Ashes is about this man who gets a call from his sister telling him that their dad is not doing well. He's in the hospital and he should return home. So he returns to his home in a small town in Virginia, and he learns that his family is in trouble and he's willing to do anything to save them. Anything. Okay. The next book, Isaac's Song, to be honest, I read the synopsis and I don't really know that much about it. I just know at the time I did believe it was book 1 in a series, but we're going to go through that. We'll work through that in the vlog because it is indeed not book 1 in the series. Okay, I don't want to get it wrong, but I do believe it is about this man who is sick or he is passing away, and he is writing letters to his son who is gay, and he has a strained relationship with him. So that's what I believe this book is about. That's what this series is about. Don't really know what book 2 is about. Now, for The Buffalo Hunter, we're going to talk all about my confusion with this book. But basically, it's about this Indian man who was in Montana in 1912, who turned into a vampire and who is getting revenge on the white men in that area because they're white men. Okay, they are atrocious, especially at this time. Have they changed much? That's debatable. But especially at this time, they are killing, raping, just doing, they're doing horrible things. Okay. And the Blackfeet community up in Montana, the Indians, they not having it. They not going for it. So that story is told in a journal by this white man named Arthur. He is a pastor. In 1912, he has his own church. He has his own congregation. And he is telling Good Stab's story. Good Stab is the Indian man who wanted to go get revenge on the white men who destroyed his family and his village. Then you have Arthur is also giving his account in his own journal back in 1912. And this journal is found by a woman named Etsy 100 years later into 2012. So Etsy is a professor at the University of Wyoming, and she wants to become a tenured professor, and she's hoping that this journal will somehow unlock that for her. So that's what the Buffalo Hunter is about. But yeah, y'all, we're gonna get started. The first book I'm going to read, like I said, is King of Ashes. I'm gonna go ahead and throw it back to Bree from almost a week ago. And we gonna let her start y'all with this ball rolling on the vlog. Okay, y'all, so I'm reading my book on my Kindle. I'm reading King of Ashes on my Kindle. I love when a book takes a moment to just explain the title. And they do that in the first chapter. And I love it. That's one of my favorite things, when the chapter comes in, the title, or excuse me, when the title of the book comes in at some point. One of my favorite things. It also happened in Kennedy Ryan's book, This Could Be Us. I was reading my book, enjoying my life, enjoying the time, and it just got away from me. So I realized that it was around the 20-25% mark that I needed to take notes on the thoughts, which is what I'm going to be reading from. And then I just kept reading. So I'm going to read my notes from that point in the book. I just want to let y'all know that I'm further than this point. First impressions, I want to talk about the characters as well as my overall feeling. Okay, so Raymond is the oldest child, and he is living down in Atlanta. He's a financial advisor to some big names, some very rich, wealthy people down in Atlanta. He flipped money all day, all night. And he advises, athletes and moguls, business moguls, all types of people on how to make money. That's what he does in Atlanta. And his sister gives him a call, basically telling him that their father is not well. So Nivea, his sister, is still back in their small town. She is the child that stayed behind and helped their father in the family business. Now, their family business is a crematorium, like I said, in a small town in Virginia. And she is the one who has helped their dad keep the business running after their dad broke his back to get this business along with their mom. She is the one to she is the only one still doing the day-to-day work, day in and day out with their father. So when their father gets into this accident, Nivea calls Raymond, and Raymond is like, I'll be there as soon as I can. So Raymond handles some business in Atlanta, and we learned that he has a vice. He does have some vices that come up a little later, and he goes up to Virginia to meet his sister. And that's when his sister is basically telling him she thinks there's something more to this accident, because like I said, she's there with their dad day in and day out, and she's just noticing there are some events that have been happening that don't seem like a coincidence. So the two of them are just having this conversation at the hospital, kind of mourning their dad in a way, coming to the realization that he's just not the person that he was. They don't know if he'll ever wake up again. They also have another brother named Dante. Now, Dante meets Raymond at their childhood home while Nivea goes and does her business. She, do what she got to do. Raymond meets Dante at their childhood home, and Dante is upset. He is distraught because not only is their dad in the hospital, their mom went missing about 16 years ago when they were all teenagers, and nobody knows what happened to her. She just went missing off the face of the earth, and it's a cold case now. Nobody knows what happened. Dante invites Raymond out to go drinking, and that's when he tells Raymond, like, I'm in some trouble. So Raymond is able to get out of Dante what is going on. In their mom's disappearance, they're not ever able to come up with any concrete evidence for a suspect or person of interest that didn't have an alibi at the time of her disappearance. There are some rumors around the town. The whole thing surrounding the Carruthers family is that this woman went missing without a trace. There are theories just floating around out there. So going back to Raymond, though, he seems like a know-it-all, and he also seems like he's very real. And he's having real moments, because sometimes in these types of books we have protagonists or male leads who all of a sudden become these shisty, vile monsters. And it's kind of like, well, that's not your character, so where did that come from? That's not the case with Raymond. So when his brother Dante tells him that he is in some trouble, he tells him that the reason he's in some trouble is because of this particular group of people. And at the head of this group of people, two brothers. They are a terror. They are terrors among the community. And somehow Dante has gotten into the mix with them. And, you know, even within the first 20%, Dante has gotten Raymond into some situations that Raymond probably never thought he would be in. And some situations, yeah, I'm sorry. Honey has the zoomies, if you can hear her. She has the literal zoomies. Yeah, she's just running back and forth into her cage, out of her cage, across the living room. Okay, so Jesus, fix it. In these moments that he's doing things that are well beyond his scope of him being a financial advisor, he is having the reactions that you expect somebody to have, and I appreciate that. When he's expected to do some nasty, grimy stuff, he really has a visceral, physical reaction to it. And you know, some things just in this world to him just has to be done. Some things just have to be done. But also, we're also able to see that his younger brother Dante becomes more and more of a headache, and Raymond is seen like putting his foot down in some situations. So speaking of Dante, he is I don't know if he's the youngest or if he's the middle child, but he makes some big mistakes, which we all have made some big mistakes. But his mistakes are centered around him being a petulant, entitled child in an adult body. And it is quite annoying. He wants to prove himself to his dad, and he wants to prove himself to his oldest brother when they just want him to do the normal things like, you know, work at the family business. Okay? As far as it being this being a thriller, this is a 10 out of 10. I am on the edge of my seat waiting on what's going to happen, because like I said, at this point, it's only 20% of the way in, and those brothers have already came down on Dante and on Raymond, because Raymond, being the person that he is, he thinks he can talk himself out of any situation, and he has grossly underestimated these brothers, like incredible miscalculation. Okay, so I am always sitting on the edge of my seat, because you're thinking to yourself, well, they can't kill Raymond, can they? Will they? And you never know what's around the corner. So that's where I am at 20%. And I'm gonna tell y'all what my thoughts are a little bit further down the line. Okay, y'all, now let's talk about my thoughts 50% of the way through. Could you back up? No, get out of my face. I don't want you in my face. Okay, y'all, now let's talk about my thoughts 50% of the way through the book. Okay, so at this point in the book, Roman has decided that he needs a plan on top of his original plan. Okay, like the synopsis says, he is willing to do anything. And I like the way he thinks, because now in the book, I'm like, okay, period. I see the vision. I see where you're going with this, but you know, this is bold. How you gonna do it? So that's where we are in the book. Again, I'm reading from my notes because y'all, I just get ahead of myself when I'm reading. There's a whole mystery surrounding what their mom did. And this isn't even like a very big part of the plot, but it comes up every now and then, because Dante and Raymond want to keep Nivea far from their plans and what they intend to do to get themselves out of this situation. However, Nivea, being the little sister that she is, has decided she ain't going for that. Okay, so one of the things that is on her plate is to dig further into their mom's disappearance, and it's coming off as if Nivea is believing the worst about their mom, while the boys are believing the best about their mom, their dad, and their parents' marriage. So Raymond is, go on. And like I said, this isn't a big part of the storyline, but it's a big part of, I believe, who she's going to be as a character from the beginning of the book to the end of the book. I think whatever she finds out about what happens in their family dynamic is going to, you know, basically change. Excuse you, move on. I think that's going to have a big effect on her character arc. Sit down. Whereas I believe Raymond is going to have some character development as well. Like, he's going to have a character arc because, like I said, he has a plan on top of a plan, but to execute that plan, he is going to work within his wheelhouse as a financial advisor, but also he's going to have to get his hands dirty in ways that I don't think I'm prepared for. I wasn't prepared for. And you can see the tiny shifts in how he thinks and what he's doing as time goes on, because as time goes on, it's like, well, this is for my family. I'm doing this for my family. So you can tell he's going to have the most character development and maybe the biggest character arc, while I think Dante is going to remain the most stagnant. Yeah, that's what I think. Now, all three of the siblings do have a vice. I did mention Raymond's vice earlier because his becomes known very early on in the book. Dante's is very obvious, and Nivea is keeping a big secret. So all three of them have something that can be used against them. They have something big or explosive that opens the door to the people that don't need an open door to their life. So while Dante, like I said, is obvious, Nivea and Raymond's is a little bit more explosive, in my opinion, especially Raymond's, just because they have to hide it so much more. Dante is doing what he wants in these streets. Okay, bless you. With all that being said, there is a very strong sibling bond that is discussed in this book, and I love that. It's small things like Dante saying, like, you think the weight is on your shoulders. I'm paraphrasing. You think like the weight of the world is on your shoulders, and you think that it's all gonna end. You just want to end it all, and then your brother remembers what you like to eat on your pizza, and it just seems like a better day. So I am enjoying that. They also describe them being a sibling as being on one side of a valley, and then a huge chasm, and their parents being on the other side. And I have read a book. I read Always a Sibling by, I'm not sure what their name is. I'll put it on the screen. But they do describe, or in that book, they describe how the bond between siblings is stronger than any other bond in a family, because it's you against your parents, or it's you going through things that your parents have no idea what's going on, because you're growing up together, you're going through life together, whereas your parents are united front parenting you and your siblings. So I love that dynamic of them loving on each other and being there for one another. So I'm still on the edge of my seat, but yeah, I'm about 50-ish% of the way through the book. So I'm about to start journaling, and then I'll let you guys know when I have something else to say. Okay, y'all, so I'm about 65% of the way through this book, and I am so pissed with Raymond right now. I'm so pissed because he is trusting somebody that I feel like is going to here. Good girl. Is going to either betray him in the end, or it's just so stupid to trust this person, because either this person is going to betray him, or he's going to have to betray this person, or just straight up kill him. But either way, it's incredibly stupid to be parlaying with this individual. Like, and my thing is, the entire book, he is quoting books like The Art of War. He's talking about playing chess. He's talking about how he's so strategic, to the point where you can feel his arrogance. You can read and see his arrogance, and you know he think he better and he's smarter than these people. And even if he is being dumb right now by trusting this person. The way this book is about to end, I feel like I should record myself reading the end of this book, because it has to be epic. It has to be epic. Okay, at this point, I only have 2 hours left of my loan, and I am 90% through with my book. So I should be able to finish, which I'm really excited about. I'm trying to figure out if I should record my reactions to the end of the book or not, y'all. I'm sitting on pins and needles, because somebody who they trusted to do something that they should not have trusted to do has reneged. And I'm speaking in code because it actually wasn't even a transaction. It was just something like, hey man, you know what the consequences are if you don't do what we tell you to do. And they acting like this ain't real. So yeah, we are 90% of the way through. Let's see how this book ends, y'all. There's something off about Nivea and where she be going. She keeps saying she going somewhere, but I think she lying. He shouldn't say this. Oh, he shouldn't have said that. Let me say this. At the end of Razor Blade Tears, there was a epic blowout ending, right? Like, I'm talking about something you can imagine happening in the movies, and that's what I think is about to happen. Every time I turn the page, I'm expecting something to blow up. I'm expecting somebody to get shot. I'm expecting a stand down, a shake down, a face off, a shootout. I'm expecting some shit to pop off. That's what I'm expecting. Damn, that's cold. Ooh, that's cold blooded. Oh. Oh my God. Oh my God, it don't end, it never ends. This book still ain't over. Damn it! Oh my God, I knew. What? Oh no. The book is over, but like, what? 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 5 stars. 5 stars. I have no notes. 5 stars. Oh my God, y'all. Oh my God. I knew it was gonna end epically. I should have known that S.A. Cosby was gonna have a twist upon a twist upon a twist upon a twist. Like I said, Roman has the largest arc of anybody. I think Nivea also followed right behind him, but then Dante, yeah, he just became stagnant, and it ended how I thought it was going to end for every single one of them. I just didn't think it was going to go down like that, you know. I am happy with how this ended. This is 5 stars. S.A. Cosby to me can do no wrong. And now I kind of want to read the rest of his books. What do y'all think? Have y'all read? This is my 3rd book I've read from him, and I think he's published 6. I'm going to read Blacktop Wasteland because that's on Kindle Unlimited. That's on my chapter. But y'all, we beat the Libby app. Yes, yes, yes. We beat the Libby app, and I was able to finish my book before I had to turn it in. I still have, I think I have less than an hour left. So now we just have to keep on going on my TBR, my Libby TBR, and see if we can beat the Libby out for the other 3 books on my TBR. So I'll talk to y'all tomorrow. Okay, y'all, let's do an update real quick. So, as y'all know, I take notes on my computer. The next book I was going to read was Isaac's Song. However, I made a grave error in thinking that was the first book. It is not. Don't Cry for Me is the first book, and I have not read that yet. So in the midst of me thinking, oh my God, I need to see if I can get Don't Cry for Me and, you know, figure out how much time I have so I can read both books if possible, I got a notification on my phone. Libby had automatically returned Don't Cry for Me, which is crazy because the last time I looked at it, it said I had 1 full day to read that book. And that was like 14 hours before. Maybe not even that long. It was only a few hours before. It was the night before I looked and it said I had 1 day. Okay. So now that freaks me out because as y'all saw for King of Ashes, they gave me a countdown. It was like so many hours, and I'm scared for Buffalo Hunter x Hunter because I cannot not finish this book. So yesterday I started Buffalo Hunter x Hunter, and this is not a book that you put on and listen to passively. This is a book that you really need to pay attention to, and I'm 20% in, and I was shocked around like 15, 17% because depending on where you see the synopsis or depending on where you read the synopsis for Buffalo Hunter x Hunter, it's two different things. So the first synopsis says, I'm gonna put it on the screen so y'all can see I'm not tripping. Most of the times, I go to Goodreads to look at a synopsis for a book. I don't think I'm gonna ever do that again. Because I've been phasing out of Goodreads anyway. I've been using Storygraph for all of my tracking. I need to start tracking offline, but that's a whole nother subject. I use Storygraph for my tracking of all of my books. But I don't know why I don't go on there to read the synopsis. For some reason, I'm still programmed to go to Goodreads to read the synopsis, and that's just what I did. So let me put the Goodreads synopsis up here for y'all. So y'all know I'm not tripping. Goodreads is so weird. If you Google it, they make you sign in to look up anything or do, I'm sorry, if you type in goodreads.com, they make you sign in before you can use the site. And for some reason, I'm not signed in right now. I don't know why. But then if you just Google a book and the Goodreads link comes up, you can just click the Goodreads link. I'm so sick of them. If you look at the Goodreads synopsis, it talks about, it's a chilling historical novel set in Montana following a Blackfeet Indian named Goodstab as he hunts the fields of the Blackfeet Nation looking for justice. Okay, it begins with a diary written in 1912 by Lutheran pastors discovered within a wall in 2012. What is unveiled is a slow massacre, a nearly forgotten chain of events that goes back to 217 Blackfeet dead in snow, told in the transcribed interviews with the Goodstab, who shares the narrative of his peculiar and unnaturally long life over a series of confessional visits. This is an American Indian revenge story captured in vivid voices of the time by one of the new masters of literary horror, Stephen Graham Jones. Now, you can take from that what you will. I'm reading that out loud and I'm realizing I didn't read this all the way. But if you just, and I rarely do, this is why I be shocked in books because I will skim over a summary. But all of that sounds good, right? Cool. Then if you just Google Buffalo Hunter x Hunter, the Buffalo Hunter x Hunter is a horror novel written by Stephen Graham Jones that interweaves two timelines: the discovery of a 1912 journal by modern-day academic Etsy Buchanan and the journal's contents with details of a Blackfeet man named Goodstab's story of transformation into a vampire. So imagine my shock when this man in 1912 has come across something that sounds like, it don't even sound like a vampire. I don't know what it sounds like, quite honestly. The way he described how it was moving, it didn't sound like a vampire, but if you think about it, obviously everything else about his demeanor, his physical appearance says vampire. So you can imagine how shocked I was to have read that part of the book. And I've never read Stephen Graham Jones before. This is my first book that I've read by him because none of his other books really intrigued me that much. They don't really intrigue me that much, but this one does. So I am trying to get used to his writing. And like I said, this is not a book that you put on passively, meaning he uses words and phrases like this right here. I'm going to put it up on the screen because I can't find it right now. I have a math degree, which means I spent my entire 4 years in college avoiding classes in which I have to use a phrase like this. And at the time, the pastor was just speaking and thinking and speaking. He wasn't talking about his diaphragm. He wasn't talking about how he was like breathing. So you have to use context clues and the definition for some of these phrases he be using. Yeah, this was like the 7th thing I looked up and I was only on page 23. No exaggeration. So I am at this point like, I might give up on this book because what are we talking about? So, okay, let me just give y'all, run you down. Actually, I just read the synopsis so you know what it's about. Etsy is trying to become tenured at her college in Wyoming. She finds this journal, or somebody found this journal in the wall written by Arthur Buchanan, in Montana in 1912. And obviously their last names are the same. They are related. That is her great, great, great grandfather, I believe. Her perspective right now in this part of the book is not being told that much. We only know certain things about her. Like, we know that she's a professor. We know where she lives. We know that she has a cat. We know she's 42. She's single. That's about all we know. And we know that she is really hoping that whatever is in this diary, whatever is in this journal, is going to help her publish something worth the University of Wyoming standards, so that she can become a tenured professor, because she feels like that is the only thing of value. That's like, well, that's not what she feels. That's kind of what they're showing her, that the only way to be a valued teacher or to be respected in a way is become tenured. I hope I'm saying that right. I don't really want to put too much on what she's saying, but she is really, really trying. That is her biggest goal right now. While that's happening, we're reading mostly the journal entries from Arthur. Now, at first, he just kind of meandering and talking about stuff, and he talking about how he is a pastor, and people either call him pastor, brother. It's so many different things that they can call him, and he's talking about how he loved to eat cake. And at this point, he in his 60s. He lives alone. And since he is the pastor of the town, the men of the town and the women come to him with the news that's going on, because either they want him to pray for the people, or they want to see if he is willing to gossip about somebody who has asked for prayer, so they can put the dots together and then go run back and tell somebody else. That's what I'm gathering. So he is interconnected and intertwined, and he just uses his journal to talk about what goes on a daily basis. So during 1912, there are these men that are coming up deceased on the side of the road, and they ask the pastor to come out there to pray for these men. All while this is going on, he is preaching, Sundays, and there is this Indian man. That's what they call him in the book now. Whether we call them Native American, or I don't actually think they want to be called Native Americans. They call them, they refer to themselves as Indians in the book. So that's why I'm saying it, all right? Everybody calm down. So this Indian man walks into his church, and he is already making assumptions about this man because of the stereotypes that the white people in this town have about the Indians. So it's very interesting to read what he's thinking and what he's saying about this Indian man who just walked into the service. Things like, maybe he only came to this service because he wants the food. Maybe he's dressing like this because that's what he's seen how other white people have dressed. There's no way he could dress like this on a regular basis. Is he here to hurt me? You can tell he's scared of this Indian man, but not because of what this particular Indian man has done. And that starts the ball rolling on all of the stereotypes that he has about this man, right? So when other people talk to Arthur, the pastor, about their prejudices and their fears of the Blackfeet community or any other Indian community there, he is quick to tell them, like, hey, let's not think of them like that. Or, he on the outside, he's trying to portray himself as a good pastor, but on the inside, he has the same thoughts that these other white men are having. So I think that that's interesting. So the Indian man goes to church one day on one Sunday, and then he leaves. And then the next Sunday he comes back, he is talking to the pastor, and you can tell that there is a language barrier, but the Indian knows enough English to get his point across. So he's talking to Arthur. He starts calling the pastor three persons because the Father, the Son, and the Creator. And the pastor tried to tell him, like, hey, you can call me pastor. He was like, I like three persons. I don't know why that cracked me up, girl. That tickled my fancy. He said, I'm going to call you what I want to call you. So I feel like he's taunting him a little bit by purposely not calling him that. So anyway, Gustav had sat down with Arthur in the back of this church, and he was like, I need to confess. You have somewhere where I can go and confess my sins to you. And he was basically like, we a Lutheran church. We don't really do that, but you can walk me up to the altar. Gustav is talking to Pastor Arthur, 3 persons, and he telling him this story about how when he was young, he and his friends and like older men in the Blackfeet community, they had all gone on basically like a trip. They went to like the top of a mountain, okay? They went on this journey looking for soldiers that were trying to come into their town. So they was on this journey, they find the soldiers, but they also find like everybody dead. So they trying to figure out, you know, what happened, put the pieces together, and move the dead bodies. Okay? They also discover that these men were carrying something in a crate, and I'm just going to leave it there. Okay? So this book is written in a way that is a slow, chilling type of... I don't even want to say. Yeah, I ain't read nothing like this before, so I don't even really know how to describe this book. It is interesting. I am intrigued. I am entertained. I have to read this physically and listen to it, because if I'm just listening to it sometimes, not all the time, sometimes I can just listen to it, but since the Blackfeet Indians have names that don't resonate with me automatically like an English name or like an American name would, or some of their phrases that they use are not common to me, when I'm listening to the book, it kind of feels like gaps in a puzzle. So I have to put my eyes on it so I can put my eyes on the words. Even though I still don't know the words, it helps fill in those gaps. So I am going to be reading this immersively while I can. At this time, it is 9 o'clock in the morning, and I have 1 day left on my Libby loan. Now, we just talked about how Libby snatched this book from me last time. However, last night when I looked at how much time I had, around 9 p.m., it said 2 days. So I'm hoping I could at least get to like 1, 2 o'clock in the morning tonight if I need to. So we're gonna spend all day reading this book. I'm going to, do a little work, do a little exercise, and then go from there. Like I said, I'm 20% of the way in, and I am very intrigued to see where this goes. The way that Stephen Graham Jones describes his gory scenes makes me cringe physically. So I'm not too excited about that, but I can't not finish the book. I just can't not finish the book. I have to finish the book. Yeah. So y'all pray for me, because the vocabulary is getting a little bit better, or maybe I'm just getting used to him talking. It's getting a little bit better, but baby, we still, we still got some work to do. So I'm finna keep on reading this book. I was just rambling then. I'm so sorry. But yeah, I'm gonna keep on reading this book, and then we'll go from there. this way. Just watched The Maze Runner and it was really good. Didn't even know it was a book.
It's I forgot his name.
I just met a local Arthur. I hate when people say Arthur. I just met a local author. Okay. I was roaming around the bookstore, as you guys saw, looking at all of the books, and they had some good finds in there. But when I first walked in, I saw this man just sitting there, and I wasn't paying him no attention because I was on my camera, and I just thought I was focused on my camera. So I just thought he was just like chilling, you know, because there were some people outside who were chilling, working on their laptops. So I thought maybe he was just sitting there chilling, you know. I don't know what else I thought. So I'm walking around and I leave. I'm done in the bookstore. I've been in the bookstore probably about 10-15 minutes. I leave. I'm getting some footage from outside and I see a poster board and I am recording the poster board. And I'm like, wait a minute, that dude on that poster board looks really familiar. He looked really daggone familiar. So I go back inside and I'm like, is that you on the poster board? And he says, that would be me. So y'all, I got to meet an author. I am so excited. I stood outside about 5 minutes, like just kind of looking around, acting like I wanted to go somewhere else because I felt embarrassed that I just walked right past him and didn't say anything. And I didn't want to go back inside and be like, is that you on the poster board? But I was like, Brianna, how would you feel if you are an author and you are sitting in a bookstore and nobody is talking to you? How would you feel if somebody came back around and they was like, is that you on the poster board? Isn't that the point of the poster board or the display? I keep saying poster board, y'all. It's not, that's disrespectful. It is a whole display with his name, his portrait, all of his works. I'm guessing some of his works, and he's promoting a new book called Sagebound. I'm not into YA books right now at the moment, so I didn't want to get it, and I feel bad because I turned around and I still didn't buy the book. But I did ask him, hey, like, what type of books do you read? And he told me, what type of books do you write? And he said, you know, mystery, thrillers, but I write all types of genres. And he said, it just depends on what you're into. And I told him I just got done reading King of Ashes and I loved that book. And he said, oh, okay, that's a really good dude. He was like, no, that's a really good dude. I said, it's good to hear that he's a good author and he's a good person, because that's something that you don't want to happen, is you become a fan of someone's work or you enjoy someone's work and then you find out they a butt face. And he was like, yeah, no, that's a good dude. And I said, oh, have you met him? And he said, yeah, you know, we run in, I don't want to say the same circles. I said, I would imagine that you guys have some sort of community. And he said, yeah, you know, you go to certain book conferences and events and you see each other from time to time. And I was like, okay, that makes sense. I said, so what would you recommend? And he said, if you want something a little more, I guess he was trying to say on this, he did not use this word. I don't know what word he used, but like, I'm gathering there's maybe a little bit more romance, I'll say that, other than what I was gonna say. He said the Nubian Underground series, and if I find it, I'll put a picture up here on the screen. And then he also said he wrote a political thriller, so I'm gonna have to look that up, because I'm just soaking in the moment. I forgot the names of these books. He said he wrote a political thriller right after the first administration, and we know what that means. We know what that means. So he said I had to get a lot of stuff off my chest, and I was like, yeah, I still want to get some stuff off my chest about this administration, baby, because who would have thought there'd be a second? I enjoyed that conversation, and a part of me did want to ask him, like, what would you recommend for an aspiring author? What would you, like, what tips do you have? But I didn't ask him that. I just felt like I was talking too long and I wasn't going to buy his book, so I didn't ask him. And I was a little embarrassed. So I said, well, I'm so happy to have met you. You know, I said, where can I find your books? And all of his socials are on the display. He said I could also go to his website. So I'm going to check into it. I'm going to check with it. I'm going to check, you know, and I wanted to take a picture with him, but also I ain't buy his book. So that's doing a lot. You know, that's doing too much. So today was a success. I'm going to have to look this place up. They did have a lot of events on their small display outside, and I wonder what else they have going on. I be missing all the book events, y'all. I'm gonna have to get with it, because the book events are eventing and I'm not there, and I need to change that. Yeah, we're gonna have to change that. But yeah, I ain't read for real today, because like I said, the Buffalo Hunter is not something that I just listen to passively. And I don't want to just be listening to it while I'm cruising through the city. So I have not put that book on. So we're going to have an update when I come back tonight, I guess. Yeah, we'll try for tonight. I am in the middle of reading the Buffalo Hunter. I am exactly 50% of the way through. And I just realized about an hour ago that this book is due at 10 a.m. in the morning. So I have less than 12 hours to read 50% of this book. And I sped it up to 2 times, and then I got it down to like 4.5 hours. But like I just said, it's 11 o'clock at night. But that's neither here nor there. Actually, it is, because the whole point is us trying to beat the Libby app, y'all. I'm really trying to beat this app, and I really want to read this book, but he is just rambling. It's a lot of talking, and there are things happening, but the way that all of these things are described is like, we couldn't have, you know, like condensed this a little bit. One of the times Good Stab came into the church to speak with 3 persons, he did something that would have made me so scared. I've probably been like, excuse me, I gotta go to the bathroom. And I would have left the city. I would have left the town. I would have never gone back. Because how the hell you do that to somebody? Like, he did something basically to prove that he was what he said he was. And this whole time, for the last 45% of the book, 3 persons, the pastor, Arthur Buchanan, he basically been saying he don't believe what Good Stab is telling him. The problem is, Good Stab just showed him, I can show you better than I could tell you. I would have walked out and never looked back. I promise you that. Would have spent the last of my few little years somewhere else. You know, that would have scared the shit out of me. But that's my only update. We're still getting these 2 different perspectives. I like the audiobook because they're using 2 different narrators for these 2 different perspectives. So yeah, yeah. It is now 2 o'clock in the morning, and this book has taken a turn. I'm 73% of the way in, and I don't even really comprehend what the heck just happened. And I feel like that's how I've been feeling this entire book. I just don't. I mean, I get it, but I didn't even know that vampires had this ability. I didn't. Like, did Stephen Graham Jones come up with his own type of vampire? I'm not confused. I'm just, what's another word for confusion? I'm so confusion. And I'm just it just took a turn. Okay, it is 2:05 a.m. and I have exactly 4 hours left. I have exactly 4 hours left on the audiobook, which means at 2 speed, I have 2 hours left. So I'm going to get up early tomorrow morning and I'm going to listen to this book. And, you know, I don't even know what I'm hoping for anymore at this point. I will say that the writing has gotten easier to understand, or maybe I'm just used to it now. I don't even know. But I feel for Good Stab. I think that at this point he is in an impossible situation, and I'm surprised that he is able to keep his spirits high. I'll have more thoughts in the morning, hopefully.
I'll see y'all at 7 a.m.
Buffalo Hunter I am giving a 3 stars because it was really hard for me to get through some parts of this book. And as y'all can see, obviously, I didn't do myself any favors by reading it until 1, 2 o'clock in the morning and then getting back up at 7 to try to read it. I didn't do myself no favors with that. But as for all the reasons I've talked about, it was just a hard read. And it was, some scenes were pretty gory, but I also wasn't expecting it to take the turn that it did because I didn't know he was a vampire. So I also didn't know anything about this version of a vampire because I've never read a version of a vampire like this. So, and I didn't look it up either. So I don't know if this is something that the Indians believe to be true about vampires, even though they're not real. So you can believe what you want about vampires, but you understand what I'm saying. So I think that it was a very interesting story. It was a kind of a thought-provoking story, and it was just too long. It was just too long for me and my tastes. I also, the end was a little it wasn't that satisfying to me because, like, Etsy, what was your thought process, girl? Why was that your thought process? How was that your, I don't know what I would do in that situation. And of course you don't know what I'm, if you know what I'm talking about, you know what I'm talking about. I don't know what I would do in that situation, but like, what the hell? So yeah, it's a solid 3 stars. Honestly, the only reason I'm not giving it anything lower than a 3 stars is because there's nothing wrong with it. Just my personal feelings about it. And it wasn't, there are times that I did not enjoy it because of the language and how it was written. It's written formally, but it's very descriptive. I don't really know how to explain it. Like I said, like, I've never read anything like this before, and I think that is part of it being challenging to me. It was a challenging read. It really was, but not necessarily for the subject matter, because we are talking about killing. We're talking about a vampire consuming blood. So it's not rainbows and sunshine. So yeah, for all of the reasons I've already given in this vlog, I'm gonna give it a 3 stars. So 2 out of 3. I hate when we say 2 out of 3 ain't bad, because it definitely is bad. It's definitely a failing grade, you know. But I am gonna consider it a win. I really am. I'm going to consider it a win. I am about to go, and I'll talk to you guys in the next vlog. From here until now, y'all have 2 things to download: Kindle Unlimited and Libby. I mean, because if I ain't convinced you of it yet, just give it to the end of the year. I'm going to convince you to download one or the other. I know I am. So y'all have a good day. Have a good week. Have a good weekend. And I'll see you in the next one. Bye.